Hey guys and ladies, welcome to another video. Today we have a top 10, but it's actually not ranked, and this is a subscriber request video because I got a request asking me to do a certain type of video. And I said, actually, I already did that video. I did a video on women's fragrances that as a man I like to wear. I actually did a top 10 women's fragrances as a man that I like to wear. And that video has gotten many views. It was a very popular video on the channel for a while. And the person who asked said, no, I want you to do a video about what fragrance you like to smell on the women in your life. And I thought, wow, that's actually a really good idea. So not the fragrances that I personally would like to wear, but fragrances that I enjoy to smell on my mom, my significant other, daughter. That's kind of the way that I set this video up, because sometimes I will spray fragrances on my 4-year-old little girl. And sometimes it's on my significant other. Sometimes I've given perfume to my mom over the years, things that I just didn't like, for example, or thought she would appreciate. And so I kind of went through my collection and I picked out 10 fragrances that are feminine marketed fragrances that I actively enjoy smelling on, let's say, a woman in my life, but that I wouldn't necessarily be excited to wear as my scent of the day, if that makes sense. If I do wear these fragrances, it would be like right before bed, I'd experience it and go to sleep and scrub it off. Not something I would want as my scent of the day for the most part. There's a few of these that I would say I'm beginning to come around to that category. I like the fragrances, but they're fragrances that for the most part I have not wanted to, let's say, just use as my scent of the day, if that makes sense. So I thought it was a very cool video idea. So before we hop into this top 10 list, let us do a scent of the day, because today's scent of the day is a very special fragrance that I've been wearing over and over and over again, and something happened. I had a little bit of not a tragedy, but I kind of lost the bottle because the sprayer was clogged. I tried to replace it. Russian Adam sent me some new sprayers. I couldn't get it on, so I just changed it to a different bottle altogether. But today my scent of the day is Santal Galore, quite possibly the greatest packaging of all time, an actual sandalwood tree as the box. You can see the notes on the back if you want to pause it and read the whole note listing. But Santal Galore, I'm going to show you something very cool. This is my favorite sandalwood fragrance of all time, by the way, but look at the sediment in there. That is the durian fruit that has crystallized, and that is what clogs up the sprayers. So I decanted this into a separate, just regular sort of bottle, so I could use it again, because literally I would spray, nothing would come out because it was so clogged. But yes, I'm wearing this as my scent of the day. I have like a 10 and a half hour dry down here. The sandalwood note in the base of this that is coming out, if you've smelled real Mysore sandalwood, you will get the most beautiful aged Mysore sandalwood scent in the late dry down. But in the opening, you kind of get this more smoky, animalic. Durian gives off this weird, some say musty, some say like an old rolled up newspaper, some say like socks, or, I've gotten all kind of descriptions on durian in the past, but it makes it very spicy and unique, okay? They used king durian, Turkish rosewater, circa 1925, old school jasmine and osmanthus, and just, it's such an amazing sandalwood fragrance. And yet, through all of these heavier notes, real Siberian deer musk, I believe, or some sort of deer musk pod, you can get the sandalwood as it dries down. It like unfurls this and just shows the most amazing, elegant, beautiful Mysore in the base. Oh, it's just phenomenal. And one time I remember Russian Adam asked me, can you smell the sandalwood in this? The answer is yes, but you have to really wait until the dry down to get the pure Mysore sandalwood smell. You get more of the smoke and florals and just the very interesting byproducts, I would say, in the top. And then it sort of just kind of reveals itself. Such a beautiful creation. Shame there's only one part of Santal Galore, but yeah, my favorite, and probably my favorite packaging ever. This is just a work of art, the packaging in the actual sandalwood tree. So that's my scent of the day. Okay, I'm going to cheat a little bit because I have 2 honorary mentions that did not make the list here, all right? And the reason that they didn't make the list in their honorary mentions is because they're fragrances that I rave about. I talk about them all the time. And I will happily wear these two fragrances, but I find myself just kind of reaching for them. Like, let's say my daughter wants to apply something. It's very easy for me to just reach for this and just put it on her because I love this. I love this type of fragrance. I love the way that the fragrances act. So I love to wear these, but also they're kind of honorary mentions in the fact that this is maybe one of her most worn fragrances for my little girl. So this is Opium by Yves Saint Laurent, the original from 1977. If you can find a Charles of the Ritz bottle, you know, with the white writing on the bottom, I would urge you to do that. And also, speaking of a work of art, I mean, I did a Pierre Denand video bottle. If you want to check out sort of some of the greatest bottles ever created by Pierre Denand, this is on the list. I mean, Opium, I have to do a full review of this one of these days, but probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Oriental ever created. It's so spicy, and, you know, many of these fragrances you're going to see have character. That's really what I love about them. Here you get the sort of plum, smoky carnation, and it dries down to this resinous Oriental amber with myrrhs and tolu balsams and frankincense and apopanax and all of these, you know, sticky resins. And it's just so, I could wear this, I could smell it on someone else. I mean, anything, anytime Opium is around me, I am a happy guy. I love Opium, one of my all-time favorite creations ever, and probably one of the coolest bottles of all time. And speaking of bottle creators, the second honorary mentions, and I do apologize, there are some of these, I know some people use these fragrance lists as like a reference for stuff to go hunt. Some of these are going to be much easier to find than others. You know, some of them are going to be rare and maybe you're going to have to do some digging. But over the years, as time has gone on, I've learned that that's kind of part of the fun. Trying to find something, and if you're a specific version hunter like me, if you want a version made by a specific, you know, distributor or something like that, that's part of the fun too, waiting until you get the exact version that you want. So don't fret, you know, if you have a bottle on your wish list, put it on your watch list, be patient. Don't pay crazy eBay money or something like that. Wait for a good deal to come along. But this bottle actually came from Japan. And this is a fragrance from the house of Leonard, who I have a couple fragrances from them that I really want to do full reviews on. But this one's called Balahē. And Balahē is unfortunately totally discontinued, and it's been discontinued for a long time. This is the Eau de Toilette, but this was created by Serge Mansau, the bottle, the competitor, I would say, for the crown of best bottle creator to Pierre Denand. Serge Mansau is going to get his own bottle video. This is probably one of my favorite bottles from him. I don't know if you can kind of see the texture there. It's kind of like one of those rocks you find where you open it up and inside you have all the crystal sparkly, you know, bits, and the fragrance, I think, does not get anywhere near the love and attention that it should get. I think this is like a precursor to Poison. It's an oriental floral fragrance that has a lot of characteristics of Poison, but it came out years before Poison came out. Danielle Mollier is the perfumer. Lots of, again, plums, aldehydes, pineapples, fruits. There's some anise. There is that tuberose. But I feel like there's notes in here that for some reason make this a little easier for me to wear. Like if I was going to wear something that was in that Poison realm, it would be Balahē. Balahē gives me more, you know, there's some anise and some sharper masculine notes like clary sage and coriander and stuff like that I think make this a little easier wear for me personally. But yes, I think this is heavily underrated as far as the you know, the impact it had on the fragrance world. I mean, the bottle, I think the bottle is just an absolute work of art. Again, one of my favorite bottles in my collection. So those are the two honorary mentions. Okay, so let's get to the top 10. And before we really get started, again, I just want to kind of reiterate, I'm not including the vintage Guerlains. You're not going to find Mitsuko, Shalimar, Le Bleu, Val de Nuit, because I love wearing those. I've raved about those fragrances for years and years and years. You're not going to find the animalic sort of leathery Shipras that I go on and on about. You're not going to find Bandit by Robert Piguet or Azuré by Estee Lauder, Teatro alla Scala by Krizia, Cuir de Russie by Chanel. That was originally marketed towards women before it went into the unisex, less exclusives line. But you're not going to find those type of fragrances on this list because, again, I wear those with pure love and passion, I have no problem wearing them. This is going to be geared more towards the fragrances that I love to smell on the women in my life. So again, I'm thinking about the times where my mom has worn something and we went to church, or my daughter, I put something on, she thinks it's hilarious, or my person when we're going out to the movies or something like that. That's kind of the image in my mind. Okay, so this is not a ranked list, by the way, but it is a 10 fragrance list, so you could call it a top 10 if you want, although it's not really ranked. But the first one I'm just going to highlight is the newest on this list. So this is the newest. It came out, well, maybe not. Maybe I lied. Actually, I think there's one a little newer, a couple years newer on this list as well. So the list goes from 2021 all the way back to the 1920s. So we have a hell of a span in there. But this fragrance came out in 2016, and it is Aventus For Her by Creed. Now, you may be shocked, but I love Aventus. Aventus is probably one of the reasons why I'm here talking to you today. Aventus was also one of the few fragrances that I've finished multiple bottles of in my journey. Very rarely has that happened, especially with a collection my size. Now, granted, when I was going through some of those bottles, I didn't have this many fragrances. But I've talked many a times about Aventus. There's an Aventus video on my channel if you want to just hear me ramble about kind of the Aventus phenomenon, if you will. I've had batches from 2012 all the way to 2018, and then that's when I basically stopped. This is a 2018 bottle, by the way, for those of you Creed batch code lovers. This is 18 B01, and I actually bought this brand new in 2018. So Aventus For Her is, if you can imagine Aventus, just the fruity Shipra side of Aventus, because Aventus is basically a fruity Shipra. What made it so amazing, I think, was the contrast. You had the dirty, mossy notes underneath and all that. And this actually, I think, takes away some of the dirty moss and replaces it with brighter fruity notes, okay? So imagine the Aventus DNA. Imagine the bergamot, lemon, pink pepper, blackcurrant, pineapple, rose, and woody base, the patchouli and all that stuff. Keep all of that, but imagine adding in a crisper, greener apple note, and imagine adding in a lilac note. Imagine adding in a peach note. Imagine adding in ylang ylang and making it a little bit more brighter, amplifying the fruity notes. And you know what? I think I could actually wear this, believe it or not, because it's really like a fruitier flanker of Aventus. But my thing is, anytime I even consider, okay, maybe I want to wear this, I would just wear Aventus, because I love Aventus still. My older bottles of Aventus are something that I still wear and love and enjoy. I've got a 2015, 16, 17 batch left. So I've got three bottles left for the most part. And then once it's done, that's it. I'm done. I'm done with Aventus. So yes, Aventus For Her. This may shock you, but I actually really like this fragrance. And I actually chose to buy this fragrance. So interestingly enough. So yes, fruity, flat, fresh, floral, very well done. I think this is, now I don't know what the newer batches are like. So, if the new stuff is terrible, I have no clue what has happened to this since Creed was purchased by BlackRock and then subsequently sold by BlackRock to Caring Beauty. But my bottle I can vouch for from 2018. Okay, next on the list is a fragrance from the house of Animale, a very underrated house. And this is unfortunately a discontinued fragrance from 1993 from the house of Animale. And it's called Animale Animale. Now, you have to be very careful with this house, okay? Because they do things like this. So the original release from Animale was in the late 80s, and it was called Animale. And then they released Animale Animale. But they also have Animale for Him, and they have Animale Animale for Him. So, I mean, it couldn't get more confusing with the names, okay? But the one that I'm highlighting in this video is Animale Animale For Her from 1993. I'm going to spray this, actually, because there's only 10 of these, and so I think it would be an easy way to kind of celebrate. And that's what these videos should be about. These videos should be a celebration. It should be a celebration of the art of perfumery. So Animale Animale is a very fruity, floral sort of creation. I don't know who the perfumer was. One of the reasons it's on this list, for example, and not the original Animale. The original Animale is much more of a dirty, old school 80s Shipra, which if you know my taste, you know that's me all the way. This is a little bit more, I'll I would almost say it's like a precursor to wearing something like Aventus for Her. I think Aventus for Her is more, has more of these Shipra notes, if you will, but this has the oak moss. It has the fruits. Actually, the fruity note here, if I'm not mistaken, I think is peach. And the peach here is very realistic. The florals are a little bit sweet, so I think there's freesia, and I wouldn't be surprised if there was some other florals mixing in here, some rose and jasmine or something. But it comes across as a very fruity, floral, slightly sweet take on a Shipra. Like I said, a little bit of a precursor to something like Aventus for Her. Citrus fruits and bergamot and stuff like that, but from the early 90s. And so, you know, the ingredients from back then, if you're into vintage fragrances, you know, the ingredients back then smell different to what, especially a company like Creed, a niche house, is using in modern day. And so again, I like this fragrance. I think it's a good fragrance, but to be honest with you, when I bought this, I wanted the original from 87. That's actually what I thought I was getting. So they even confused me when I bought it. And then when I bought it, I was like, oh damn, this actually, this smells amazing. I like it. It's just not the kind of thing that I would want to wear all day as my scent of the day. But again, on the women in my life, smells absolutely phenomenal. And this is a house that you will be hearing more about. Even the original Animale from 1987, which I showed the EDT when I was just showing you the differences in the name, but they have a pure parfum. I believe Angie sent me this, and I was bowled over by this, and the packaging too. The packaging, the scent itself, the original Shipra from I want to say it's 87, is one of the most underrated. I would say it is just a absolute knockout. So this is one that that you'll definitely be hearing more about. I think it deserves more love too. It's gotten some love in the Discord server. If you're new to, or if you haven't watched some of my recent videos, I have been dropping the link to my Discord server where all people do all day is just talk about fragrances. So if you want to be involved, join the Ram Fam Discord server, and not only can you watch fragrance videos all day, you can interact with folks in the community on that Discord server as well. And those Animale fragrances have been getting brought up over and over and over again. So number 2 on the list is Animale Animale. Number 3 is the one from 2021 that I was referencing earlier. So this is the newest fragrance on the list. And it's a Guerlain, but it's not one of the vintage Guerlains that are so near and dear to my heart. This is a newer creation from Delphine Jelk. I feel like Delphine Jelk has kind of taken on more and more of the creation authority from Thierry Vasser for whatever reason. Maybe that's what the brand wants to do. Maybe Thierry Vasser is just enjoying kind of going around looking at ingredients and doing interviews and stuff like that. But Delphine Jelk created this, and this is called Rose Shete. So I basically got this in like a pack, you know. I bought some stuff, someone threw some stuff in for free, and this ended up coming in like the package that I bought from a friend. And this is a very, as the name says, rose heavy fragrance. Now, there's, I want to say 3 or 4 different types of rose in here. Damask Rose and Damask Rose Water. Damask Rose Absolute, Rose Centrifolia Absolute, and it has that Guerlain sort of almond, that soft, powdery Guerlain sort of DNA in this. It's got the Guerlainade in the base. There's also some irisy, purple smelling thing in here. I think they say it's a violet note, and some fruitiness. So again, you're kind of getting the theme here from these first 3. The overly floral, overly fruity. This one is also slightly sweetened, but it has this creamy undertone, watery, creamy. You know, if you've ever had like maybe like puddings with some rose water as like a natural sweetener or something on top. I know those are very popular in the Middle Eastern countries. That'll kind of give you an idea of the way the fruitiness and the sweetness kind of comes to you. Again, I like this, and I think it's a good fragrance, but it's something that I would prefer to smell on somebody else. Whereas I have my own scent of the day, and you just kind of smell this in passing. But it's a very floral, sweet creation. If you're into rose, though, I'll tell you what, this does dry down to a beautiful rose smell. The rose note in here is very well done. Not overly jammy, very sweet, almost like a watery, not really watery either. That's not a fair. I think it's the rose water that kind of gives it some of that crystalline quality, you know, that like you're seeing the rose through a mirage or something. There's a little bit of this sort of powdery wateriness to it, but I really like this. I think it's a good creation. Again, more one of those fragrances that I would want to smell on, you know, the important women in my life. And I will say that I think this is the only Guerlain modern bottle. In this bottle I do have a mini. I have Rose Barbar, which if I was going to wear one, I'd rather wear Rose Barbar, to be honest with you. But Rose Chérie, you know, perfect for the women in my life. So Floral Sweet, beautiful creation by Delphine Jelk. That is number 3 on the list. Okay, number 4, we're going to go back in time and we're going to go to Guerlain's competitor, Dior, Christian Dior from 1956. And this is actually the vintage version. I don't know when this bottle's from, probably from the 80s. But this is called Diorissimo. And Diorissimo is actually one of the most popular creations by Edmund Runitska because basically the backstory to Diorissimo is that Lily of the Valley could not be extracted. There's no natural Lily of the Valley essence that could be used for whatever reason, whatever technical reason, I don't know. But it has to basically be reconstructed through an accord, okay? And so there had been Lily of the Valley fragrances before Diorissimo, but in 1956, the story goes that Edmund Runitska succeeded in basically reconstructing the flower by using hydroxycitronellol, hope I pronounced that right, the main ingredient, the main aroma component of Lily of the Valley, and some other notes. So this reconstruction was so good, many people consider this to be Edmund Runitska's masterpiece. Now, not me. Give me Eau de Hermes any day. But I understand what they're saying, you know, with such a beautiful reconstruction. And Diorella. And then in 2000 and, sorry, I said Diorella. It's Diorissimo. Diorissimo. In 2009, Francois Demachy reformulated it according to sort of IFRA's modern guidelines, and that's when many people were like, they kind of lost the soul of it. But Diorissimo is, again, another one of those fragrances that I would much prefer to smell on, let's say, a date if we're going to dinner or something like that, rather than myself. Yeah, it definitely has this, you know, I told this story about being a little kid, being dragged to church in upstate New York by my grandmother on one of our vacations, and this reminding me of that instantly. Either maybe she actually wore it, or maybe there was Lily of the Valley growing around the church up there, because it does grow in the Northeast. So it's definitely possible, but Lily of the Valley always kind of gives that talc powder, sort of baby powder, powderiness. But what makes this one so interesting, I think, is the fresh green leaves. It's like you're literally smelling the plant. You get the green leaves, you get the Lily of the Valley mixed with jasmine, some a little bit of rosemary, ylang ylang, Baronia, which is actually a very expensive flower. I didn't realize how expensive it was until Russian Adam used it in his Oud Taiwan, if I'm not mistaken. I think there was Baronia used in there. Excuse me. With some sandalwood and some civet. But the civet in here, I think, is just used to give contrast, you know, to make sure the fragrance isn't kind of too down. It kind of lifts it up a little bit. And, I mean, it's a reference Lily of the Valley fragrance. Absolute reference Lily of the Valley. And I enjoy smelling it. I even enjoy smelling it like this on the card. But I think this is kind of one of those fragrances that I would not want to wear as my scent of the day. Again, I would probably prefer something like Santal Galore, but yeah, this is a beautiful reconstruction. And if you're a fan of fragrance history, you know, if you're kind of one of those people who really gets deep into the details and nerds out on this stuff, I keep saying Diorissimo is kind of one such example of a very beautiful floral, fresh Lily of the Valley, a reference Lily of the Valley fragrance, if there ever was one. You know, if you're into kind of studying that stuff, this is one that you should definitely get your nose on. I'm not saying it's a must-buy. I'm saying it's definitely one to kind of put a notch on and say it's something I should smell in my fragrance journey, if you will. So Diorissimo comes in at number 4. All right, so number 5, almost halfway through. Number 5 on the list, we have a little bit of a shocker. And this fragrance shocked me because Well, twofold. And of all of the ones that I've mentioned so far, this is the one. Actually, the next three I would say are the ones that I would probably consider wearing as my scent of the day first out of any of the other ones. And this may shock you too, but it really shocked me because this was sent to me. I think Angie strikes again here, or maybe it was a Nuge. I can't remember, but this is an Elizabeth Taylor fragrance, and it's called White Diamonds. Now, this was a very popular fragrance, and I'll tell you what, Elizabeth Taylor had some amazing fragrances back in the day. Passion for Men, I am in love with Passion. I love spraying it before bed and stuff like that. I'll review it one of these days, and also I'm going to review this because this, I think, is one of the as far as like new discoveries for me go. Some of these I'm going to discuss on here I've known for a long time, but as far as new discovery goes, this is one of my favorite aldehydic, powdery floral fragrances I've ever come across in recent memory. I was blown away by how much I love this. Now, the new stuff is being marketed by Revlon. This is a vintage bottle back when it was distributed by Parfums International. So this is a vintage bottle, okay? I don't know what Revlon has done to the scent. I'm sure it's not the same as the vintage. If you can find a vintage, this is the one I would probably recommend. But this is a Carlos Benaim creation. And, you know, his resume has been so impressive, from Polo Green in 78 all the way to things like Icon by Dunhill, which I love. And man, I don't know what it is about this. And Dawn, which I want a bottle of Dawn one day, even though it's so expensive. I want a bottle of Dawn. But White Diamonds, you know, smelling it now on the card, I'm thinking maybe it's the old school carnation in here that I love so much. But you know what else hit me? This was my mother's scent, or one of the few fragrances that my mother had growing up. And maybe there is this like familiarity with this scent, you know, like remembering spending Thanksgivings and Easters and Christmases together and all of that stuff. And I could totally see, you know, the scent memory just brings me back on White Diamond. So that's one part of it. But the other part is, you know, this is kind of one of those scents that I like so much I would consider wearing myself. I usually don't. It's kind of one where so far I have not given it a full wear as my scent of the day. But shocking, this one, and again, this is why you have to trust your own nose. No one smells through your nose except for you. So you have to trust your nose and your instincts on things. Don't go off of notes or marketing. Smell the fragrance yourself. Sometimes the fragrance just takes you away. You know, I never remembered my mother actually having this until I smelled it. And I asked her about it. She said, yes, White Diamonds was one of her fragrances. So powdery, floral, and you know, there's surprisingly some heft to it. Yes, I think it's an aldehydic floral. Well, maybe you could even consider this a Shipra because it has the patchouli. I don't know if it has the bergamot in the top, but it definitely has this aldehydic top. And, you know, it's like a modern take on number 5, which is not on this list. I actually enjoy wearing number 5, the Eau de Cologne. I want a well-preserved full bottle because I only have a little bit left right there. You can see it's just like 10 mil. But I think it's a combination of the spiciness of the carnation, the beautiful aldehydic opening. There's a note of Amazon lily and neroli in the top, so there's little touches of green. But I think it's like the Shipra accord. There's patchouli. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some labdanum and amber and stuff like that in the base. And the sandalwood in this smells so unbelievably natural. I mean, I'm smelling a fragrance here that smells like one of the most realistic sandalwoods I've ever smelled. And, you know, obviously it's not going to compare to the Areej, but for a fragrance from the 90s, the sandalwood note in this seems miles ahead of the crap they're giving us today. So it is floral, it is powdery. Off of the note listing and my taste, you would think I would smell this and go, you know, but I actually loved it. Absolutely loved it. So shockingly loved it. But what a creation, I think, by Carlos Benaim and Olivier Guillotine as the two perfumers. Okay, so 5 done, 5 to come. Yes, 5 to come. So let's take a break at the halfway mark real quick. Excuse me whilst I hydrate. Okay, so number 6 on the list. This is another one that I think if I was going to wear, I think I may have worn this as my scent of the day one time, to be honest with you. But so it's not one that I have a ton of experience, but it is one of the few on this list I've actually worn as my scent of the day. I will say that, but not one that I would reach for willingly very often. But it's the one, again, the handful on the list that I'm considering trying to get to know a little bit more, because it is made by some of the all-time great perfumers: Jean-Louis Suizac, Dominique Ropion, and Nejla Barbier. And this is called Dune. Again, sticking with the Dior theme. So we've had Diorissimo, and now we have Dune. Dune is a woody, spicy fragrance that I think, and one of the reasons I think it would be so easy for me to be a little bit of a convert on this is the Brazilian rosewood, which I absolutely love. And there's a peony note, which you very rarely get a well-done peony note. This, Diaman, and I want to say it was Zonka, are the peony note fragrances that come to mind right away. Very few and far between, but there's something about this. Yes, it is floral. You get a traditional floral heart, but it's kind of mixed in with spices. And so you get spices, you get, again, beautiful sandalwood from the 90s. This is 1991 as well. White Diamonds and Dune were both 1991. And there's something about this that every time I smell it, I get a little bit of a unlisted frankincense note, like an incense note. And it's pretty attractive. I really like the incense note in here in Dune. Even though it's not listed, I'm not sure where it's coming from. Yeah, this is... Oh. I think if you sort of made me rank the ones that maybe I would start wearing more, this would be top of the list of all the ones we're going to discuss today. This would be top, and White Diamonds would surprisingly be second. But I mean, I would love to smell this on my date, like going out to dinner or something, or a show afterwards where you're both dressed nice, maybe going to the opera or something. This is just so beautifully elegant. Woody, spicy, the benzoin, little hints of, you know, Annick Bernardo's work before she really took off with it in things like Jai Pour Homme, you know, that benzoin and oriental touches, the vanilla in the base. The floral heart, man, this is really, really something beautiful. Really something that stands out. And again, the bottom of my bottle says Parfums Christian Dior. I don't know how old this is. I don't know what the new stuff is like. This is still available. This is still available. The Creed Aventus for her is still available. Paris Chérie is still available. Or Rose Chérie, excuse me. Rose Chérie is still available. So there are still some of these that are available. I just don't know what the... I don't know what the condition of these modern bottles are like. So if anyone knows, leave it in the comments. But Dune is fantastic. Okay, number 7 on the list. Now, number 7 is available, I believe, in the Eau de Toilette, if I'm not mistaken. I think the Pure Parfum, which I'm going to show because it's my favorite, is discontinued. I don't think they make the Pure Parfum, but this is First by Van Cleef and Arpels. And this also came all the way from Japan, believe it or not. One of my Japanese hookups is very kind and sends me stuff sometimes. And this blew me away because it's a Jean-Claude Elena. First of all, it's, well, first of all, it is not what you expect in a, actually, I'm not gonna waste this on a card. I'm not gonna waste this on a card, but I am going to spray the Eau de Toilette for you guys. How about that? So, but this is the one that really has my heart, the Pure Parfum. The depth of that is so against what you would expect a Jean-Claude Elena to be. Many people sort of have now associated him with this pastel watercolor painting things where everything is, you know, very fluid and light and airy and soft. And First is not that at all. You know, and it goes to show that the creations that the perfumers are making has a lot to do with the time and place that they are released. So this is the vintage Eau de Toilette. Oh, actually, yeah, the Japanese writing is still on the back. Look at that. So 87% volume. And let me spray this for you guys. Oh, wow. The sprayer on that is just crazy. So, yeah, you get this very traditional, old school aldehydic top. So it's, you know, floral, and it's an aldehydic floral with sort of woody and 70s/80s touches. So if I was ranking these on the ones I would wear, again, Dune is number 1, White Diamonds would be number 2, and then this is probably, or right there with White Diamonds, I would say. This would be second or third place because, man, the complexity of this, though. There's little touches, in the 70s and 80s, you started to get heavier uses of the civet, the honey notes, and you smell this and you put this under someone's nose, instantly you're going to see the texture, the depth, even of the florals. Everyone talks about the oak moss adding depth and texture, and that's true. The amount of oak moss and vetiver, and, it's almost like you can feel the bark of the tree. You can feel the blades of grass. Everything becomes 3D. You can walk right into the fragrance. But this also, one thing that amazes me is it's also the floral notes. There's narcissus, carnation, hyacinth, jasmine, lily of the valley, orchid, orris root, which, adds to the powdery bit, tuberose, Turkish rose, and ylang ylang. That is 10 notes in the heart, all in the heart note. And so the EDT, which I'm smelling, smells absolutely phenomenal. Just imagine the Pure Parfum on skin. It is so creamy and spicy and woody, floral, fruity, because it has peach and raspberry and blackcurrant in the top. Just imagine the depth of this fragrance with the aldehydic top just ballooning everything up. And then underneath you have the civet and honey, and the fact that this was a Jean-Claude Helena creation in 1976 still blows my mind every time I smell this, because he made a complete left turn. Obviously, as he became his own perfumer and the things that he loved. I saw a class with him where he talked to the kids at the Givaudan school, I think, or ISPCA, or whatever that perfume school is. And he said something like, don't listen to the professors, do whatever you want to do your own thing. And I think the professors were like, haha, yeah, okay, get out of here, Jean. And so, but this, seeing this and then seeing what he became really feels like he sort of did end up going his own way. But I love this type of perfume. I wish he would have continued to make stuff like this. And he did sort of continue on the heavier path. Like, for example, he made a flanker of Bel Ami called Bel Ami Vetiver when he was the in-house perfumer at Hermès. And it is a very much more of the heavier style. It's not the light, airy Jean-Claude Helena. So he obviously could do it, but he had this style, this DNA that he liked to stick to. But this will blow your mind. If you're a Jean-Claude Helena fan and you have not smelled First by Van Cleef & Arpels, I would highly, highly recommend it. Again, very, very elegant scent. Okay, next on the list, we have what Chanel would call their wedding scent. And if you are an aldehydic floral lover, I think that this is a reference aldehydic floral. I don't think you can do much better than this. I've heard someone describe this as Chanel number 5 on steroids. It is number 22. So this is the Eau de Toilette. If you go to Parfumo, you'll only see the Pure Parfum, which came out in 1922. You will see the Les Exclusifs Eau de Toilette version, which is discontinued from 2007, but there's an incomplete sort of breakdown on Parfumo, because this is an 80s bottle and it's an Eau de Toilette from Chanel. They don't have the Eau de Toilette version pre the Les Exclusifs on their site on Parfumo. But this used to be what they gave away for free. Look at this. This was complimentary. Compliments of Chanel. That's what they gave away for free back in the day. So it's not just the quality of the fragrances that have fallen over the years. It is also how they used to treat the consumer. And, I love that many of the minis back in the day were minis of the fragrance themselves. Now they just stick them in these little things like this that are just, generic sort of atomizers and move on. But back in the day, I feel like they used to take more time with the packaging as well. But this is one of the king or queen, you should say, aldehydic florals. Number 22. And so this has obviously that Chanel aesthetic about it. It has that Chanel sparkle, as I've often said. Chanel fragrances sparkle to me. They have this class about them. Some people call Chanel fragrances very cold. Because it almost feels like, you know, someone who's kind of like, I'm here, you're there, you stay on your side of the fence, you know, don't approach me. I'm too busy for your riffraff. But even though some of that coldness comes through on some of the Chanel fragrances, this is one of the warmest ones. This feels so welcoming, and the detail for an aldehydic floral. If you've smelled Chanel No. 5, if you smelled just some of Ernst Beau's and work in general from way back in the day, you'll have an idea of kind of where this is going. Again, the original Parfum came out in 1922. The note listing of the Les Exclusifs Eau de Toilette was aldehydes, lily of the valley, neroli, rose, ylang ylang, jasmine, vanilla, and vetiver. Okay, the Pure Parfum version from 1922 was aldehydes, lily of the valley, neroli, orange blossom, tuberose, lily, ylang ylang, jasmine, rose, nutmeg, frankincense, iris, vanilla, and vetiver. So you get a much more robust sort of note listing. Still a powdery floral, aldehydic floral, if you want to call it that. But you get things like orange blossom, which adds a little bit more of that soapy element. I get some of that in this. That soapy orange blossom accord. And I did an entire video breaking down the differences between orange blossom, neroli, which is much greener. And you know, you get some of the green too. There's really no other green note listed except for vetiver in the base than the neroli. And you get these, you know, little just sharp lines of green that just cut through here and then back to the main event of the aldehydic floral. Very powdery take on it though. The florals in here feel very powdery, like they've just been distilled down to their core and turned into like a baby powder. But it's so beautiful, and I can totally see why this is a wedding scent. I mean, this on a white dress is like the wedding scent for Chanel. That's what they claim is their wedding scent for women. So Jacques Polge did the reformulation. The original from 1922, of course, was Ernst Beau. So number 22 comes in at number 8. Number 9, and then number 10. So number 9, actually, we're staying with a Ernst Beau creation, and it's going to be Soir de Paris. So, which is basically like an evening in Paris, from my understanding. I don't speak French, but that is my rudimentary understanding. An evening in Paris. And this sort of takes that DNA, if you will. Something like number 22, like number 5. And I think continues to amp it up, you know? So if this is number 5 on steroids, then this is that number 5 DNA, but pushing the envelope even further and adding spicier notes. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if there were some spices in here, like anise, you know, like cardamom or something like that, kind of amping it all up. So imagine that sort of DNA. And you can see I'm very consistent with what I like to wear as my scent of the day and what I do not like to wear as my scent of the day. And so let me fold this so I can fit it in there. I'm going to have to, please don't come splashing out. Get on there. Okay, I think we got some. Yes, and you can see this actually also came from Japan, interestingly enough. Japan has some amazing fragrances on that island, but it's very hard to get the perfume off the island. So, a very spicy floral. I love the spices in here. It takes that old school DNA and I feel like makes it more of a spicy Shipra. Yeah, the spice, the amped up spice is really the difference, but underneath it all, you have that Ernst Beau aldehydic floral creation that was such a craze when number 5 came out. And you know what's crazy is many people forget that the family who owned Chanel, which I could probably look it up with a click of a mouse. Let me just look it up so I can. The family that owned Chanel, the Wertheimers, excuse me, I should know that, the Wertheimers. It was Chanel Bourjois. So this company right here, Bourjois, was part of that Chanel Bourjois group, if you will. And that's the reason why Ernst Beau is working on a fragrance like Bourjois. So these old Bourjois are definitely something to keep an eye out, especially if you're into vintage fragrances. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe there was a hint of Artemisia in there mixing in with the anise, or maybe a little bit of heliotrope. Some different florals, maybe blending some something in the base, adding a little bit more heft. It's not just focusing on the aldehydic florals is what makes An Evening in Paris so interesting. But yeah, that style, I mean, this style is kind of one of those things that I enjoy smelling. And again, I think an elegant evening out would go perfect. I just don't know if I would want to make it as my personal scent of the day. Okay, so last one on the list, and this is one of the big ones. This one I struggle with even to put on before bed because it's so unbelievably strong. It is an Oriental Spicy, which you would think is right up my alley. It's from 1985, one of my favorite years in fragrances. And yet there's something that I so associate it with a woman. You know, I associate this so strongly with a woman, with my partner, person, whatever you want to call them, right? Or in your case, your significant other, right? This is kind of one of those things where I just associate it with my person, with this person that will be with me when we're going to go out, let's say, right? That I have a hard time wearing, and I always have had a hard time with this one. This is not something that kind of grew because there was an association with a person who wore it. This was something that from the very second I smelled it, I was like, wow. This is kind of one of those fragrances that is a reference fragrance. Again, if you're into smelling fragrances as like if you view it as like a college course, as a case study, and there are certain important points in time, important fragrances that you want to smell, this is one that you should have on the list. But I struggle with this one to wear. I've never worn this as my scent of the day. Let me put it this way. And it's Poison by Dior. So, this is one where if it was like, man, you could have one sort of scent for your person, for your lover, this would be it. Because this is powerful, strong. Again, speaking of somebody that has a personality, brave, they stand tall, even in the face of, you know, winds, hurricane force winds, they stand tall, they'll stand by your side. You know, that's the image of the woman that I imagine wearing this. And it's funny because sometimes I do put this on my 4-year-old and it's way too beyond, you know, she should be in something fruitier and fun and that kind of thing. This can be a very serious fragrance, but it just smells so amazing in the air. And you know what? You could smell it from across the room and it's so distinct. I don't know, there are very few fragrances that are as distinct as something like this, or even something like this, which I showed earlier. But this is way more my style as far as something that I would wear. But the level of uniqueness, of distinctness, like I said, I think Balahē was like a rough draft. I think Dior took this from 83, and in 85 they released Poison. Now this is the Esprit de Parfum. Again, shout out to Angie. She's been getting my female fragrance level up here because she's been sending me some of the ones I didn't have. Like, for example, she sent me the Eau de Toilette, which this is the one you can still buy, although this is a vintage bottle, Parfums Christian Dior, before they went to the, you know, newer address and just Dior now. It's not Christian Dior on a lot of the backs of these bottles. It's just Dior. But LVMH is still selling the Eau de Toilette, from my understanding. The Esprit de Parfum is discontinued. And the other one that's discontinued is the Eau de Cologne. The Eau de Cologne is also discontinued. And I'll tell you what, though. It's very strange smelling an Eau de Cologne of maybe one of the most powerful fragrances you've ever smelled, because it's just this weird, you know, kind of contrast. Let me spray the eau de cologne actually, because if any of them I'm gonna spray in here, and this room will probably still smell like poison for a month. But poison eau de cologne. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Oh my God. So yeah, it's very strange because it's clearly poison, but it's nowhere near as just claws out. You know, the Esprit de Parfum is narcotic tuberose. I mean, just like honey dripping white floral, you know, with the actual honey accord, with the plum, with the rosewood, which I love rosewood, and heliotrope, vanillas, and ambers, and musks, and, you know, woods, and all of this stuff. Jean Guichard, who puts his son, Aurélien Guichard, to shame as far as, like, perfumer status. Jean Guichard is the man. Aurélien Guichard, I'm not a fan of his work. And Edward Fleischier, who to me is one of the greatest one of the greatest perfumers of all time. He really does not get the love he deserves. He created some of the all-time greats, in my opinion. Definitely Edward Fleischier deserves more love in the community, just for making the original Davidoff and Goma and, you know, stuff like that. Montana's Parfum Dome. He deserves more love. But I'll tell you what, Poison, if you're into sort of fragrances that make a statement, if you're into like statement makers, like you want all eyes on you when you walk in the room, very few fragrances do what Poison does. And if you really, really want to, you know, sort of stamp your authority on every woman in the room watching you, then the Esprit de Parfum, the depth of this, the richness, the thickness, the lasting power, literally the power. You know, I could have Jeremy Fragrance here screaming power, and he would be talking about Poison. Poison is so strong. And some people don't like that. That is one thing about it, though. There are some people that are like, oh God, that I know that smell. Anywhere it's poison, get it away from me. And other people absolutely adore it. Again, it's kind of one of those things where I fall into the camp where I'm in the middle, because I don't want to wear it as my scent of the day, but I want to smell it on, let's say my date. If we're going to go to play putt-putt or go do something fun, or, you know, go watch a game, go to a concert, that would be perfect for that sort of mood, because it has this playfulness, but it also has this sexiness to it. So yes, Poison, absolutely phenomenal. 10 fragrances from my collection that I love to smell on the women in my life. Thank you for the idea to the person who recommended this. Actually, it's funny because someone recommended it a long time ago. When I thought I did the video, I misunderstood what they were asking. So I do try and listen to my audience as much as I can. We did recently pass 10,000 subscribers, which I'm very, very happy about. There's a celebration video on the channel. And so there's going to be many more videos to come. I've got so much stuff to discuss. I don't even have the time to do it. But I want to talk about that new House of 1984. I've got some more stuff coming to unbox tomorrow that we'll be discussing. I want to get J.K. DeLapp on from Rising Phoenix to do an interview one day. I need to get to wearing more of his work and you know, sort of understand his operating procedure and how he operates better and what he does. But yeah, lots more content to come. So I appreciate everyone watching, liking, subscribing, commenting, all the stuff you guys do to kind of keep the channel going and show the growth. Seeing the subscriber growth over the last 2.5 years has been unbelievable, especially for a guy who does zero editing, gets on here, clicks play, talk, stop, you know, click stop, upload, and that's it. So yes, thank you to all my subscribers. And let me know what you think of the video idea. Let me know what you think of the idea, what your favorites are from the list. As always, thanks for watching. Cheers, guys, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.